We are talking now with Mr. Marty Irby. He is the executive director of the Animal Wellness Association that is located in Washington, D.C. We have talked to Marty Irby before, but Marty, several things I want to talk to you about on the program today. But first of all, an incredible Olympics with the equestrian events. So, is there any issues like with animal abuse at the Olympics equestrian events? And also, you know that the horse that won the Kentucky Derby, I think it was, also was disqualified because of injections and things like that. Is that an equestrian issue as well?
Well, thanks, Roy, for having me today. I really appreciate it. And the Olympics are very heavily regulated. They have some great folks that are watching over the sport there, and there really aren't any major issues, especially related to soaring, the intentional injuring of the horse's front feet in the Olympics. So we don't see that much of a problem there. However, in the world of American horse racing, there are some very serious issues, especially when it comes to Bob Baffert, who is the guy that most folks see on TV with the silver hair and the shades on. And he has been caught time and time again drugging horses illegally. I believe the Derby incident with Medina Spirit was either his 31st or 32nd violation for medication abuse in most recent years. So we're not seeing a lot of problems in the Olympics, but we still see a lot of problems in American horse racing. And I hope that in the long run, we have solved the problems in horse racing, because last year we were able to get the Horse Racing Integrity and Safety Act signed into law in December, and that banned the use of all drugs on race day in thoroughbred horse racing in the U.S., but it doesn't take effect until 2022. And USADA, the U.S. anti-doping agency that oversees the Olympics, will then at that time also be overseeing the world of thoroughbred horse racing.
That's just incredible information, and I appreciate you sharing that. Now, looking at your press release and somewhat of a history as far as the soaring is concerned, you were going back almost 100 years talking about the Tennessee walking horse and the competitions that they used to have and the natural gait of the Tennessee walking horse that would just wow people. This was before the time of soaring. So can you talk a little bit about, the beauty of the Tennessee walking horse and their ability to perform this gait in competitions before the soaring, and then whenever the soaring issue began to infest that competition?
Yes, absolutely. I grew up in the world of Tennessee walking horses and loved the breed and the natural gait. I started riding them when I was about 3 years old and showing and competing when I was 4. So I've seen both the natural gait and the unnatural gait my entire life. And in 1939, the Tennessee Walking Horse National Celebration was established, that now exists in Shelbyville, Tennessee. And a horse named Strolling Jim, who was a gelding, won the first World Grand Championship. He had just his regular horseshoes on, flat shod. His gait was not accentuated. It was the natural gait. And he had a wonderful, beautiful, smooth, natural head nod and stride with his back leg, and just a little bit of step with the front leg. And today, in 2021, and this has been going on since the 1960s, the gait that the Tennessee walking horse performs is known more widely as the big lick. And that came to fruition because one trainer in the late 1950s, early 1960s, discovered that if he soared the horse's front feet, applied chemicals like mustard oil or croton oil or kerosene or diesel fuel to the horse's front feet, the horse would step higher and fling his legs out. And they started basing the shows and the judging at the shows on that artificial, unnatural gait. And then some years later started adding more to the soaring, where they actually put these large stacked shoes that are as much as 8 or 10 inches high in height on the horse's hooves, and ankle chains, an actual chain that you would have around the horse's ankle that slaps the skin that's tender and sore from the chemicals. And that exacerbates the pain and makes these Tennessee walking horses step higher and perform this big lick gait. So it's something that has been going on for more than half a century, but wasn't an original part of what the breed performed. It was something man-made, and us humans leave it to us to mess something that God made and looked beautiful and turn it into something that's not. So it's a major problem in Tennessee, Kentucky, and to a lesser degree, North Carolina, Alabama, and a few other southeastern states.
Is this an issue of the lack of public knowledge or perception or lack of caring?
Well, I think it's more of a lack of caring than it is a lack of public awareness. 10 years ago or so, people may not have known very much about soaring, but in 2012, there was a big undercover investigation of a man named Jackie McConnell, who was over in Collierville, Tennessee, near Memphis. He was caught on ABC Nightline brutally beating and abusing horses, stewarding horses, where they basically hit them in the head with something that looks like a baseball bat to try to get them to focus on the pain in their head so they're not focusing on the pain in their feet, so that they can pass the USDA's inspectors and get into the horse show. And that sounds kind of crazy, but that is what happens. And that video brought to light the soaring abuses. And at the time that I'd say early 2000s or so, there may have been 30,000 people sitting at the Tennessee Walking Horse National Celebration on the final Saturday night before Labor Day. Today, there may have been 8,000 or 9,000 people there. So public awareness is definitely creating a problem for them. People won't go and watch the horse shows. But at the same time, the people that are the diehards in the breed that control the breed really and head up the Tennessee Walking Horse Breeders and Exhibitors Association, that's the breed registry in 1935 was founded, and the celebration, all seem to be digressing backward more toward the soaring. And this year, just last week, we saw that the Tennessee Walking Horse National Celebration actually allowed Jackie McConnell back into their horse show as a spectator. He had been banned for life. I guess their definition of life is a little over 9 years, because he hasn't been there in the past, and we saw him surface this year. So that was very disheartening. But the people who are soaring horses, they have dug in. They have support from some of the Tennessee and Kentucky legislators who are defending them and blocking a federal bill called the Prevent All Soaring Tactics, or PAST Act, that would help eliminate soaring by banning the use of those large stack shoes and ankle chains around the horse's feet that I mentioned earlier.
Well, in our area, I just right off the top of my head could name three individuals who have had horses that have competed in that competition. In Shelbyville, actually, I've had a couple of one I know of it, that it was a national champion. So that is an issue that is somewhat pertinent as far as our area is concerned. How can our listeners learn more about this, and if they are mind to, can be involved or have their voice heard?
Well, yes, there are some soaring issues in North Carolina. There's actually one person, his name is Tyler Baucom. He's a trainer in Monroe, North Carolina. There's some major issues with soaring in his facility. But to find out more information and to join the cause in helping us eradicate this plight, please check us out at www.animalwellnessaction.org. And we've got a lot of information there on our website about soaring and how people can join in to help the cause.
Well, Marty, it's always great to talk to you. I appreciate your taking time to update our listeners on these actions. Marty Irby, who is the Executive Director of the Animal Wellness Action in Washington, D.C. Thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you so much, Roy. Enjoyed it as always.